Your brush holder is going to have a bearing on the inside. Lay that aside. Same for the next side. Wiggle the brush holder, it'll come out. Okay. Now, take your unit, turn it upside down. And if you'll look right here, push out and pull up at the same time. The rake will disengage from the body. Same way on the opposite side. Pull outward and pull up on your rake. And you lift your rake out of your machine. Now when you're putting your new rake in, keep in mind these tabs lock into slots inside the machine. And if you'll look inside, you can see the slot that the tab locks into, and it's the same on the opposite side. So you take your new rake, work with one side at a time, push out until you have a riser on your new rake. You want that to go inside the housing. Look inside, guide your tab into your slots, and just eyeball it as you walk it down, and you'll see your rake will lock in, the pin will lock into the side of the housing. Now go to the opposite side, and it's the same procedure. Just look inside, line your tab up with your slots, push your unit until the sides lock in, your riser's inside your housing. Now, take your brush holder. You see your bearing on the inside. Turn, make sure it turns freely. If it feels rough or it's locked up, you'll have to replace this bearing. This bearing is no good. Okay. Same way for your outer gears. Turn your bearings, make sure they turn smooth and free. If they don't, then you'll have to be replaced. Okay, if you look at your gear, you've got 2 notches that coincide with 2 slots inside your brush housing. Those have to lock together inside the unit. That's what makes them turn as one when you lock them together with the screw. Okay, take and just push your brush holder into the housing. Take your gear, line it up with the opening, push. You shouldn't be able to turn both of them separately. They should turn together. Just turn and push until they lock together, and they should turn as one unit like this. Replace your short screw for the non-motorized side by feeding it into the center of the gear. There you go. Now that side is complete. Same for the motor side. Check your bearing, turns freely. This bearing's good. Insert into the unit. On the side with the gear, now this is your clutch inside here. Make sure it's positioned right. There's a tab on the inside that should be to the front side of the gear. It lines up with this notch. So take your shaft, insert it into the unit, turn until the 2 lock together. Now, put your notch to the bottom side so you can watch it through the front of the gear. Install your gear. Now the tab on your spring should fit exactly in the notch. Now your washer has a tab too. You can see that. This tab lines up with the notch for the clutch. Insert your screw. You want to tighten the screw down till it's snug, but you don't want to over tighten. This has to slip inside the pinion gear. Okay, once you get it snug, back it off about a 1/16 of a turn or so everything slips. It should freewheel in one direction and your motor should spin in the opposite direction. Now, to reinstall your brush, turn one side, doesn't matter which side, turn one side till you see your tab that says push, it's facing up. You'll see a tab on the bottom. Insert your brush, rotate your opposite until your push tab is up. Now, work the brush in and you'll see the tab. The tab is still open, it's not locked. If your tab is not locked, the brush will not stay in. A couple of ways you can get this to lock in. If you just push down, it's not going to lock. If you take your hand and it's still not locked. So get a rubber hammer. With a rubber hammer, just give it a sharp tap, and you'll see the tab is locked in the lock position now. Now your brush will stay in your unit. Okay, put your wheels back on. Just work on the manual side. This side has a big gear on the inside. Now this gear is made for universal fit. It's left and right. So what you want to do is put the gear in. If you were to remove the gear and forget which way it come out, put it into the unit. You should be able to turn it one complete turn and turn the brush at the same time. Now, if you put the gear in, and it makes a quarter of a turn, clipped it off, but it'll lock up in one direction. It'll make about a quarter of a turn and stop. So turn your gear, now install your wheel, line it up with the axle, and just with the palm of your hand work the wheel home. Take your rubber hammer, give it a few taps. Your axle shaft should be flush with your bearing. Now take your wheel clamp. You know it's like a clothespin. You got two sides. You want one side facing toward the bottom, one towards the top. Never should be facing front to back. You'll break your wheel clamp if you do install it this way. So the wheel clamp should be recessed, about 3/32 of an inch or so. You know that clamp is locked. Now go to your motor side. Same as the opposite side, you just don't have the gear inside. This one's empty. Install the wheel onto the axle. Take your rubber hammer, hit the hub of the wheel. You see your axle is flush with your bearing. Same as the other side. Two sides of your wheel clamp, one up, one down, never side to side. Push, you'll actually hear a click. If you look on the inside, you'll be able to see the locking mechanism for your wheel clamp. And that's how you install a rake assembly on a 677.